Hey, so this is the first demo, alpha demo, I should say, of Tango Jaguar. It's a procedural vector editor. It's based on graphs and combining shapes together. I haven't really got a good name for it yet, so it's just called Tango Jaguar because I thought that was cool. Just a word on the interface. So on the left hand side we have the palette. It won't look like this, it's just for me to make it quick. This section here is the designer. You will be able to use common selector tools here. This area is the node view, and then on the right hand side we have the inspector. So when I select a item I can change its properties. So for example this triangle, I can set its height to 100, base to 100, move it about, etc. Okay, so at the moment I have a triangle. Great. I've got a few more tools at my disposal. So I have this thing called a warp. So in order for me to make this work, I have to plug my triangle into my warp, and then straight away you can see that the triangle has become warped. I can, it uses a random C, so I can just press this button until I get like a nice random thing. I can also skip it if needs be. Okay, what else have we got? So triangle, you've seen a transform. So I can now plug this warp into this transform, and then I can rotate this. At the moment this is using radians. It will use degrees at some point. So that's rotated. And again, just going back, this original triangle has not been destroyed. It's still there. If I disconnect this connection, you can still see it. It's simply because it's going through this flow. The output is what's displayed here. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold at the moment. We have a square, standard square, a selector. I'll show that in a minute. Scatter. So you'll have to look really close into the screen, but the scatter has actually put 10 different dots. One there, one there, one there, one there, one there. Like a few dots on the screen. And that's really interesting. So what you can do with a scatter is you can, for every single point, you can create a new object. So for instance, if I create an instance and say, for these points, I want to create a square. For every single one of those points, I've just created a new square. And again, this is a new shape. So for instance, I can, yep, that looks fine. And then I can create a Boolean. So all of these shapes, which is just one shape, can be combined into a singular shape. Now that singular shape can then be recombined back into this warp. Just need to lane out a little bit. There's some artifacts here, but that's just it's just not complete yet. So we can say the warp is now affecting the Boolean operation. So we can hit this button, and again it's warping the entire combined shape. Okay, what else have we got? A grid is just like the scatter, except it creates a grid, columns and rows. One thing about the scatter is, if I just disconnect this, oh, there's a bug. Let's just delete until it works. There we go. So again, you'll have to zoom in really close, but all of these points are just random. But what I can do is I can constrain the points from the scatter into the square by setting the parameter. Again, you can't really see it at the moment without me connecting things, but trust me, those points are constrained to that square. What else have we got? Duplicator is really cool. So I can say, I've got this triangle and I want to duplicate 10 copies of it. You can't see it because they're all stacked on top of each other. But I can then say transform, and for instance I can say move across 20. Now at the moment they all move 20, but I can say increment to 20, so it moves each one up to 20 value, or compound, which is add 20 to each one successively. So that's actually quite a cool shape that we've created. I wonder what we can do with it. So we have a circle, boolean, and an alternator. I wonder. So we could create an alternator. No, so again, there's lots we can do just with these few tools. So from the transform, we can say to the selector, A, B, and C. So A is I can't remember, B is I can't remember, C is I can't remember. So I'm guessing the code is skip every other one, because this produced 10, this flow produced 10, and then this has basically got rid of every other one. Okay, cool. An alternator can basically take multiple shapes, so this, and this, and then I'm going to take points and scatter the alternated object into this instance. Again, this sounds complicated, right? But all it's done is says, give me some points, and then either give me a square or one of these generated shapes every other time into this instance. So if I was to say 2, it's probably not going to update now because of a bug. Yeah, there's a bug, but you can see on the design it's got squares and triangles now. So that's just a very brief introduction to Tango Jaguar, but basically once you've created your graphs, you'll be able to export this stuff into Illustrator or Photoshop or Sketch. It enables you to just play with shapes and generate different flows. And for instance, if I wanted to get rid of this triangle now, I can just get rid of this triangle and I can replace it with a circle. Just the amount of time that it saves just creating different shapes is insane.